Give me a nod if you can hear me. I can see your face. Awesome. Good. Okay. So I've got my computer over there, and then I've got my phone here logged in as a different account. So maybe I'll be able to see questions. I don't know. I'm not the techiest person that's out there, but I just want to start by expressing my gratitude for everyone who's here. 20-some people coming to a chat about mental health, like that's awesome. And that's the stuff that really fires me up and gets me excited. I will say I do feel a little crazy right now because like my screen on my laptop looks kind of blank. And I feel like if someone's like walking by right now, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's true. That's the psych guy. I saw him in his yard, like talking to himself. But you know, so goes the world. So I'm grateful to have you all here. And if I'm looking over at my phone, it's just to see if any questions or things like that are popping up, and I'm going to let Nicole handle that. Sorry, it's a little smoky also, but welcome to what I've been calling positive psychology in crisis, navigating for all audiences, we'll call it life storms. I've been calling it other sorts of storms on my blog. And Nicole will post a link in the chat section to a webpage that I made that'll kind of walk you through all of this. Feel free to share that. There's some questions for you or some videos and stuff like that to kind of get going. What I'm envisioning is I'll talk about a certain topic for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll open it up and Nicole can read any questions that may have come up that you guys might have, and I'll try to address those briefly, move on, and then at the end, maybe we can have a little bit more of an open discussion about stuff. So I'm going to assume that's okay because nobody seems to be arguing or saying anything against that. I'm like looking at this screen and I see names of people that are here that I've known for years, and it makes me feel so joyful and grateful that you guys took time to be here. And I'm incredibly uncomfortable in this situation, talking to a screen and by myself in my yard. So I'm going to just do the best that I can with this and have some fun and make the most of it. But the topic of positive psychology is really incredibly important to me. Positive psychology is a class that I started teaching about 3 years ago when I was completely on the struggle bus. I was at the worst time in my life. I was in a lot of pain for things that I was going through, hurt, abused emotionally in some ways, and lonely. And at a point where I was really kind of suicidal, and the college asked me to start teaching this positive psych class, and I had never taken positive psychology. And keep in mind, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, 2 master's degrees in counseling, and I'm done with all my coursework for my doctorate. And never once was it a requirement for me to take a class called positive psychology. Lots of diagnosis classes and the what's wrong with you classes and the, you know, medication classes, but never this class that offers up really wonderful free opportunities to improve your mental health. And I committed to it. And the students that I had in my class at Colorado Mountain College committed to it. And we gave it our all, and we made it probably one of the best experiences that I've ever been a part of. And then subsequent classes that I've taught, including the one that I taught this semester with incredible students who committed, saw amazing changes. Essentially, positive psychology is a subfield of psychology that focuses on what's right with you, what's good with you, what's positive, how can you grow and become stronger, less depressed, less anxious, and a better version of yourself using natural and holistic approaches. It's not denying reality or ignoring pain or suffering or pretending like there's not a pandemic or burying your head in the sand like nothing's going wrong. It's about focusing on what you can control and choosing the positive options. And that's really what this is about, is choosing and finding things that are healthy, side effect free, that can make you feel better. I always think of positive psychology as kind of the opposite of what most people's experience with psychology has been. Every time, you know, as I'm a licensed counselor, and whenever I see people, I'm like, have you ever been to a counselor before? They're like, yeah, it was terrible. All they wanted to do was diagnose me or push pills down my throat or focus on how I was wrong. And that's a small percentage of a lot of the people in the mental health field, but that's kind of the overarching negative stereotypes about psychology. So positive psychology does the opposite. It's like, no, let's accept those negative traits that you have, but let's focus on the really good ones, on the positive and what you're able to do. So I'm going to kind of walk you through some of those things and how they directly pertain to a crisis. We're in an absolute crisis. And I used to use that term a lot, but usually it would be like, oh my gosh, I'm running late to this appointment. I'm in a total crisis or a total meltdown. I think we might all have a new idea and definition of crisis now that we're living in this pandemic. So I think about, wow, the world's changing. It's not about trying to stop it from changing, because it's going to be changing, it's going to be evolving. It's how do we navigate that in a healthy way? And one thing that I think about, I'm going to open up my little notebook here, is I think about rain, okay? And I love when it rains. I love the rain. Growing up in the Midwest, we used to get these tremendously amazing thunderstorms, and I loved it. Some people get really grumpy when it's raining, and they complain, and oh my God, the weather's terrible, and things are awful right now, and blah, 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 and they're in this like sour mood. Well, you can be grumpy and be negative and be angry and be frustrated about the rain, or you can be joyful and grateful for what the rain brings, and you can take your shoes off and you can go dance in the rain. But I got news for you. Either way, people, it's raining. So that's kind of how I view the crisis that's going on. Is it's going to be going on regardless of if we choose a negative mindset or a positive mindset. So why not find some of those positive things that could really make you feel better, less depressed, probably better to be around, a better partner to navigate through this crisis with. And you're going to hear me use the word navigate to the point you're going to be annoyed by it. And sorry, but that's the best word I've got for what we need to do. So remember, either way, it's going to be raining. It's about your mindset and your attitude. Do you want to be joyful and grateful, or do you want to be grumpy and angry? And during this time, you might need to feel grumpy and angry. Yesterday, I was at the grocery store, and I just wanted to like chat with all my friends and not feel alienated and isolated like we all do. I wanted to connect like I do when I'm at the grocery store. But I couldn't, and I was really frustrated and angry, and I needed to feel that and live in it, but I had to put a limitation on that and then move forward as far as what was positive and what was going to serve me better. And that was accepting it, being grumpy, and then recognizing, oh, what can I do? So I want to put some effort into this, or I want to, call a friend, or video chat with a couple of my friends last night that I got the pleasure of doing. So that's a big piece of this. I'll tell you, as far as positive and negative goes, it's not always cut and dry. It's not always super easy to say something's positive or something's negative. But if you're not aware and consciously choosing to find a positive path, you're going to fall into a negative pit. You're just going to accidentally fall into that pit. You're not accidentally going to climb this positive peak. That takes work and effort, and often is shunned by people for, oh, you're so annoying, you're so positive, why are you so upbeat? And that's okay. And negativity kind of has a way of sucking us in. One negative person in a group of 20 people will pull that entire group down. I've seen it. I've felt it. I've had it in classes, or I've had it in groups of people, or been in an event where that's going on. And it's exhausting to be around that. And you just sometimes will default right into that negative. So you've got to make that conscious choice to be aware. Another thought about positive psychology right now during all of this is there's actual proven health benefits. We're talking like real science. When Nicole said one of the things that we want to leave people with, it's scientifically backed or researched. Positive psychology is not just like some out there hippy dippy, despite what I might look like presenting this message to you. It's actually scientifically researched. It has a lot of backing. One thing that comes from being positive, being optimistic, and a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today is a reduction in something called cortisol. Cortisol is what our body releases when we're anxious or stressed or depressed, and it kind of pulls us down. It makes us feel negative. It also weakens our immune system significantly. People who deal with high levels of anxiety and depression get sick more. They miss more work. So right now, at a time where I think maybe we all could agree that boosting our immune systems would be incredibly beneficial, try these things out, and it's going to strengthen your immune system. So maybe you can actually fight off, diseases, viruses, bacteria, whatever. And I'm not saying this is the only way that we need to do that. We need to be taking protective measures and wearing masks, social distancing, and all that. But why not give your body a little bit of a boost on its ability to kind of fight the diseases? So there's actual scientific backing on all of these things. Any questions that we have right now? Nicole, give me a thumbs up if we got a question. Oh, I lost your picture. Hold on.
Nothing has come in so far.
Okay, feel free to, like I said, send those messages either to everyone or just to Nicole that you might have about the topics that I'm throwing out. So I'm going to move on to another topic here that people hate talking about this. As a clinician, I will say that whenever I bring up the word boundaries, one, I feel like a Freudian counselor or something like that, where I'm like making people lay on a couch and tell me about their father or asking how does that make you feel. But boundaries are basically rules or limitations that we set up for ourselves and for the people around us as far as what's acceptable in our life and how we're treated. And right now, I'm noticing that a lot of people are really, really struggling with the boundaries that we have. And I'm included in this. Like, please don't think that I'm saying these things and I'm like, oh, I'm great at this. No, this is like, I am as much a receiver of this message as I am a giver. But boundaries basically set up what's acceptable behavior in our life. And that could be, an easy one is to think about is substance drinking and drugs. Like right now, I'm seeing a lot of people drinking more than they usually do because we've got some spare time. And there's nothing wrong with having like a glass of wine over Zoom with some friends and catching up. But if you're finding yourself drinking more than you want or more frequently in higher quantity and you're getting wasted all the time and you're not feeling great, that's not probably serving you super well. So set boundaries on what that looks like. Maybe that's like, oh, I'm only going to drink 1 or 2 days a week, or I'm only going to have 1 glass of wine. Whatever it is, as far as that goes, or the same thing can be said for unhealthy food. I don't know why I felt in quarantine it just became completely acceptable to eat garbage. Like I am eating the most unhealthy stuff, and I'm like, whatever, quarantine. As I pound like more Ben and Jerry's. Another weird thing that I've been doing is I feel like after every meal I eat, and it's usually like 3 to 4 a day of full meals, like I have dessert at the end of it. I'm like, oh, I just had breakfast. I might as well have some like, Reese's peanut butter cups for dessert breakfast. Like, when did that become a thing for me? Maybe I'm the only one doing it. I bet not. But really look at kind of your boundaries on what's acceptable behavior with your diet, with what you're eating, how often you're eating. Because sometimes we're just bored, so we're like, oh, I'm going to eat a bunch of food right now. Be aware of that because I don't want us coming out of this in bad shape as far as what we're eating and our substance use goes. Boundaries can also be things that we set with one another. In relationships, you need to have some boundaries. I need some time away. I need to step away and I need alone time. Or I can't talk about whatever this heavy thing is. For me, like people that just sit there and talk COVID constantly, I'm like, I can't do this. I can handle like 10 minutes of COVID talk a day. And then I'm like, no, it's raining. I get that. But I want to focus on what I can do in this massive life storm that we're all mutually going through together. So looking at boundaries as far as in your relationship, I need some time away, or I need some quiet, or I can't do this. So set boundaries with people in your life. And another type of boundary that's really important, that's one that I used to really struggle with when I was going through some seriously depressive and anxious times in my life, was boundaries about how you view yourself. It's so easy to be like, oh, I'm so lazy, I'm not doing anything right now, or I'm such a terrible person, and I'm ungrateful, or I'm this or I'm that, and we sit there and we beat ourselves up. Be self-aware, absolutely, about things that are going on in your life, but don't beat yourself up. Don't allow that negative self-talk to be something that drives and guides you. Find positive talk and ways that you view yourself, and really turn those into things that are positives instead of you just beating yourself up or being really negative or whatever that might look like. I think like boundaries as far as general natural boundaries go. I live in a ski town, as most of us are in Summit County right now. We have boundaries as far as ski area boundaries and where we're allowed to go and where we can't go. And those are there for our protection, and they're there to keep us safe, as our amazing ski patrol always does, keeping us safe. Those exist for us to thrive and be safe. Now, The ones, those are very concrete. It's usually like a rope. The boundaries that we have in our life are sometimes a little bit more fluid. They might be undefined in some senses, and that can really make it difficult to recognize a violation of those. So be clear and set up your boundaries as best you can when you're looking at what they look like as far as personally, emotionally, and with the people in your life. Set those boundaries and stick with them. I've had some people tell me, they're like, boy, I've had to set some Netflix boundaries. Yeah, because right now we've got a lot of time and it's easy to waste a lot of that time. So set boundaries as far as how much TV you're watching or how much crap you're reading on the internet or whatever that might look like. But boundaries are really important for us kind of thriving. Any questions, Nicole, that we've got?
Doesn't look like any yet, other than a comment that you're doing great. Oh, okay, here's the question.
Perfect.
When we set boundaries for how much TV we watch, how much junk food we eat, etc., how do we enforce those?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. And the biggest thing about that is this is where we have to self-enforce a lot of those things, and that can be tough. If you're with somebody who you're living with, either a roommate or a partner, sometimes throwing that stuff out and saying like, hey, I would love if you would help hold me accountable to this. But this is where being aware of what you're doing, maybe if you have to like hide your remote control for your TV for a day, put it away for a little while, whatever it is. Ordering your food online so that you don't have the junk food is another thing that could help you not have it as much there. But be aware of what you're doing. Sometimes eating for people becomes incredibly compulsive and you don't realize what's going on. Slow yourself down, be aware of these things, and ask yourself before you're making any decisions. Is this what I want to be doing, or is this a boundary violation from what I set for myself? So that I can thrive. It's not that easy because right now we have ourselves to hold us accountable. That's a tough grammatical sentence right there. I hope my English teacher mother wasn't listening to me butcher that sentence. But when I think about the boundaries that I have to set for what I'm going to do, and that could be like when I take a nap or whatever that is, it's really easy to just kind of justify and say like, oh, I just want to do this. But set those goals, remind yourself, set up a little reminder, put a note on your remote control or on your fridge that says, no, you're not eating another pint of Ben and Jerry's today, Drew. You've already had one and that's enough. Or, that's enough binge watching of some weird serial killer documentary. Like put notes to yourself to remind you. That's the best that I can do is little things like that may make a difference. Other questions?
So here's one. One big issue I'm finding for my own mental health is how others are doing during the crisis, and some people are not doing great. What is the best way to reach out to people who are getting harder to reach, especially now when physical distancing is the norm?
Gosh, that is a great question. And the thing I would say is be persistent. Keep reaching out to those people and don't worry as much about what the response you're getting. Keep reaching out. If they're not responding, send another text, make another call. If you're getting concerned about someone's safety, absolutely make a few phone calls, and don't be scared if you're concerned about someone's safety to call 911 and have a welfare check done on them. That is obviously a really extreme case, but right now, we as a community in Summit County have had 2 suicides during this quarantine that happened about 8 days apart. And it's tragic. And it is awful what's going on with people who are isolating, who already felt isolated and are now are forced to be isolated. That's getting even more intense. So I would tell you to keep reaching out and reach out in a variety of ways. Something that I like to do if I know someone's struggling isn't to just say, hey, just checking in. That's a lot of pressure then on that person to maybe respond back, and they're expecting a heavy conversation or something that might be a little too intense for them. So just send them like a funny video. Like, I don't know, like to me, like the internet, the most valuable thing that the internet offers us is videos of like baby goats or like kittens doing things or puppies. Send those like fun things to people so that they have that. But be persistent. Don't give out. Don't give up on them. Just keep reaching out as best you can. And if you are concerned about someone's safety, don't be hesitant to call, leave messages, and if you have to, if you're concerned about their safety, call 911 and have a welfare check done. That is something that we can do. I'm really concerned coming out of this, though, that we're going to be really antisocial and even more distant than we were before going into this. Thanks for that question. That's a great question. Other questions before we move on?
I think that was it.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. So we're going to move on to one of my absolute favorite. Oh, one last comment about boundaries. Setting a routine for yourself can be really helpful as well. Maybe that's setting an alarm clock, saying I'm not going to sleep past 8:30. I'm going to get up and I'm going to kind of have some sort of a routine, even though it might not be going to work or whatever is normal. But set kind of some sort of schedule for yourself so that maybe you're holding yourself to that, and have a little bit of structure so that when we do end up going back to whatever the new normalcy that we find is, it's not such a shock. But we're going to shift into one of my all-time favorite topics is
oh, sorry, Drew, 1 second.
Oh, good.
How do you set a boundary with a family member that takes that boundary badly when you do set it?
That's a great question, because sometimes boundaries are setting up limitations that we can have with people, and they'll be offended or they'll be hurt by the fact that you said hey, I need to take time away from you. The best thing that you can do is setting those boundaries and maybe explaining why. And do not try to set a boundary when you're in the middle of a fight. Once you've already started arguing and fighting, you need to step away, reset yourself, and then come back and say this is the boundary that I need, and this is why I need this. Standing up to that boundary can be, or standing up to that person about what you need for that boundary and why can give them insight. And you've got to remind them it's not personal. This is just what I need. I'm not trying to be selfish, or I'm not trying to be mean, or I'm not trying to be alienating, but this is what I need. And then it's on you to listen to maybe why they have fears or why that's bothering them, and talk through it. Communicate and communicate and communicate and communicate. Keep talking so that you can figure out how you can navigate that together. Maybe they're worried about your safety, and you saying that you need to isolate or be away. Maybe you have to offer up okay, I'll check in with you so that you know that I'm okay every day, or every other day, something like that. But keep communicating about it and explaining the best that you can as to why you need that boundary, and that it's not something personal. And then listen to what they have to say and see what you can figure out together about if you're in a small house, or you're in a big house, whatever it might be, or a single apartment. You might need to be setting some boundaries that can be hard on that person, but you've got to talk through it and respect each other's boundaries as best you can. Great question. Other things before we move on to gratitude?
Yep. How would you approach the following situation? You've been watching series all day, every day, but you really need to start working instead, but you can't start.
You've been watching, I'm assuming this is you're watching a Netflix series and you're super into it, and then you need to set those boundaries. So what I like to do, I'm assuming that's what that is. If it's anything different, chime into Nicole on that one. But what I like to do, because our schedules have gotten a little flexible, is I like to work for okay, I'm going to work on writing a couple blog posts, or I'm going to grade my genius students' projects, or I'm going to whatever the work is that I have to do. So I'll work for 2 hours, and then I'll say, all right, great, I'm going to take a break now, and I'll take that break and watch a little bit of TV, or take the dogs for a walk, or whatever that might be. So again, setting some sort of structure and limitations on how much you're going to be doing something, mixed in with kind of that whatever that guilty pleasure might be that you want to do. So all right, at the end of this, I have to get this done, then I get to watch whatever that tiger thing that people are watching on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet, but whatever, people are all talking about it. So make it rewards. 2 hours of work, 1 hour of TV. Even that gets you going in the right rhythm. And then all of a sudden you're going to hopefully get that down to maybe bigger chunks of work, less chunks of that, or set a time. Okay, if I work at 3 o'clock, I can do this. Once my day's done, then I can watch that. But those are really important boundaries. And I don't know if Netflix or anything like that has a feature that can like limit you. I know like iPhones, somebody told me, I don't have an iPhone, but that iPhones will like limit the amount of time that you can spend on certain things. So utilizing technology like that could be really helpful. But yeah, set those boundaries and then stick to them. And if you break it, it's okay. Start it right then. Okay, man, I slipped up. All right, well then go get some work done and then watch your junk, whatever it might be. We've all got it, and don't think that you don't have junk to do. Any other questions? Awesome. All right, I'm gonna jump into to gratitude. And I'm sitting here and people are like walking around my neighborhood and I'm grateful to see the sunshine, the snow's starting to melt. I have a lawn again. There's so much that I have to be grateful for. And I've noticed that when I'm struggling or I'm at my worst, it's when I'm not recognizing all that I have. And gratitude is basically an appreciation or recognition of something that you truly value and have and really just care about. We have so much, just all of you that are on this, are able to be on this call right now. You have internet or whatever the G thing is, 4G. You have a screen. You have a community event that was put on to help you connect. You've got, I'm seeing most people, it looks like you're in houses or in warm places. You have so much. So do I. I have so much. I grew up in a home where I never needed anything. My parents provided for me so much more than I ever possibly needed. And all of my wants were met as well. And that's incredible. And that's not everybody's circumstance, but that was my circumstance. So focusing on what you're grateful for can allow you to kind of slip out of some of that negative tone that might be there. I think back to when I was in Nepal, and I tell this story whenever I talk about gratitude. I was in Nepal a few years ago, and I was walking through Kathmandu, which is like a total chaotic, overstimulating madness city that's beautiful and amazing. But I saw this woman laying in like a street gutter with her shirt off. One of her children was breastfeeding off of her, and she was like passed out, and her other child was panhandling. And I remember seeing this and thinking, oh my God, like I've never remotely experienced a moment like that in my life. I've never lived like that. And I took a moment and I remember thinking, appreciate what you have because you've never been in this situation. You've never been in this circumstance that is so obviously difficult for all of those three people that were involved, the mom and her two children. And I'm not saying that that means that I don't have problems. I do, or don't have wants. I do. But I have so much, and that's where I want to put my energy, is focusing on what I have and slowing myself down to be grateful and to appreciate it. It doesn't have to be these grandiose things, these huge, like, oh, my home or health or anything like that. It can be little things. So I have my gratitude journal, which I was encouraged by my wonderful counselor, Abby Blacklock, to keep a gratitude journal. And as I just opened it up and I write down 3 things in it pretty much every day. And if you do that, it's okay if you forget a day or two, go back and write them down. I went like a couple weeks without writing in it. I was like, I'm kind of grumpy right now. I need to write in my gratitude journal. So I went through and just wrote something down for every day. Right here, looking at it, I'm seeing a lot of people's names, but I wrote toothpaste down. Like, I'm grateful that I have toothpaste. That's something that we take for granted. We have toothpaste so that we can brush our teeth. My family, Lucy, my dog who's laying over there, Linus, who's laying right here, Abby, Brooke, apples, the song Harry Hood. All of these things are things that I wrote down at some point of something of value to me. I highly encourage people to find a way to practice gratitude more in your life so that you're aware of these things and they don't just become things that you take for granted. Taking things for granted is difficult. And quite frankly, it's a really unattractive trait. So practicing gratitude allows you to, like I said earlier, focus on what you have and not on what you don't. I think about it as taking a time out in life to realize where you are. Perspective is everything. Like I said, with that woman that was breastfeeding her child while basically passed out in a gutter on the streets of Kathmandu, my perspective changes when I think about whatever it is that I'm upset about, or I'm stressing about money, or about whatever it is of the day. I try to slow those things down, put them back into perspective, and recognize, boy, I've got a lot. It's not about saying, oh, I don't want any more, I don't need any more, and I'm totally content with everything that I have in my life. It's great to have goals and to have desires and to have wants, to seek new things, but not if you're losing the perspective of everything that you do have. That's when it can become a really big problem. So a few things that I suggest for gratitude are keeping a gratitude journal. Just talked about that. And that could be, like I said, in mine, I just write them down. That could be on your computer, or just writing little scraps of gratitudes down anywhere. Listing off your gratitudes particularly when you're stressed out. And this is something that one of my best friends, Joe Mackey, showed me. One day, Joe and I were driving down Main Street Breck, and I think it was March, and there were like 1 million tourists everywhere, and people were like standing in the middle of the street taking pictures of the snow or whatever, and it was like chaotic, and it was a stressful moment. And I look over and I see Joe, who's driving his truck, his big truck down Main Street. He says, "I'm so grateful for my dogs. I'm grateful for my friends." And he's listing these things off. I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "I'm trying to list off all my gratitudes when I'm stressed out." Those of you in Summit County, Colorado, know how chaotic it can be when we've got 1 million tourists who right now I miss because of our economy, but I wish they were here supporting us and all of our small businesses safely, but that's not where we are right now. So take that time when you're in a stressful moment to just slow down, catch your breath, and then list off some things that you're grateful for. And again, it doesn't have to be huge, but you could say them in your head. Sometimes when I'm walking into a crowded city market, I'm like, okay, focus on what you're grateful for. I'm grateful that I have money in my checking account so that I can buy my groceries. I'm grateful that there's avocados or whatever that might be. Slow yourself down to recognize that. Another really great thing to do that I make my positive psychology students do, and those of you that have taken positive psych and are on this call, you can see a couple of your faces on my phone right here. Writing a letter of gratitude to somebody. And this came from an activity that we did at the college with our incredible leader on campus, Dave Askelin, had us write letters of gratitude and then share them with people. Reach out and share those letters of gratitude. I think about, I'm looking at names on here right now of people that I'm grateful for. Somebody that I've known for years that I'm so grateful found his way into this. Tommy Newkirk, I'm just so grateful that you're in here. It makes me so happy to see that you're here. But reach out to those people, because sadly in this world right now, we don't know how long we have. So reach out. I'm getting a ton of smoke in my face right now, so I apologize. I value so many people, and I've tried to make it a habit of letting them know. And seeing the Newkirks right now, like I am so grateful for you guys. It makes me so happy that you're here. And seeing other people that are out here, gosh, it just brightens my soul and makes me feel really comfortable with doing this. You know, I don't love this 2-dimensional sort of talking to people. I like 3-dimensional. I wish that around my fire right now, I wish you were all here and we were enjoying one another's company. But I'm grateful that you're all here and that you're in my life. Take that time, write that letter, send an email. It can be as simple as a text message that says, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I am so grateful for you." Send those messages. Don't hold back, because it's crazy what we're going through right now. It's insanity. And that might be the difference in someone's day. That might be the difference in somebody's ability and experience to survive the next minute. Reach out, send those messages. And again, I'm looking at the names of people that are on here, and it's just people that brighten my soul and make me happy. Don't be scared to reach out and make gratitude something that you practice daily. One thing that I know that people do on social media, the picture one, Instagram, is the hashtag gratitude. I'm not a big pound sign person, but you millennials, you do you. And I would tell you, take pictures of things that you're grateful for. Share them with people. And it could be, I saw flowers are starting to come up. My poppies are starting to poke their heads out in the yard. And that's amazing. Take a picture of that. Savor that moment. Something we're going to talk about here in a few minutes is savoring. But be grateful for those things, no matter how big or how small, and especially the people or your dogs. Like, look at this face, people. Look at this. Look at this alien dingo baby that I have. Right. Yeah, okay. But I'm grateful for my dogs. I'm grateful every day that I have them. Take that time, recognize it, slow down. It's a free thing that can make a huge difference. See if I have any other stuff that I want to share about gratitude. Anybody have any questions or comments or thoughts about gratitude?
Yep, here's a couple. So,
Great.
can overzealous gratitude lead to a sense of unworthiness?
Ooh, can overzealous gratitude lead to a sense of unworthiness? Wow, that's a great question. And from my experience, I haven't seen that. I think that that's probably going to be accompanied by some underlying maybe mental health issues or self-confidence, self-worth, depressive sorts of issues. So I would say that's probably the bigger thing that's going on than the gratitude. I haven't experienced that with anybody in my life, but it is altogether possible. But again, I would look at what's maybe underlying with that as far as your own self-worth and your self-value. Great question, though.
Here's another one. How can we feel the most genuinely and authentically grateful?
To me, that requires presence and self-awareness. Be aware. And if you're present in a moment and you're present with what's going on, that's where you're going to feel that much deeper level of it, as opposed to like, oh, I'm grateful that I have a computer, or I'm grateful that I, have food. When it's authentic and it's genuine and you're present in what you're acknowledging or recognizing, is when that's going to kind of go to that deeper level. So be present in it, slow down. And then another aspect of that I would say is sharing that with other people could be really useful. Share it with other people. Sometimes I annoy people because I'm like, I'm so grateful that the sun is out. And they're like, yeah, the sun always comes out. So share it with other people. Most of the people get excited about it. And I'm like, yeah, it is great. What a good day. Other question?
Just a comment. Tommy Newkirk said, "Hey Drew, love you."
Thanks, Tom. It's good to see you, buddy.
Here's another one. When I start to count things I have, I immediately think of those who aren't privileged. I start feeling guilty. How can we deal with that guilt?
That's a question that I can really understand. I would say regardless, you already have those things. So you're just making yourself more aware of it. And while feeling guilty, maybe that's an opportunity to share more with other people. When you think about, oh, I've got this bounty of stuff, or like I'm fortunate enough that I have cabinets that are filled with food. Some of it's kind of weird food from years past, but I've got food. So maybe instead of feeling guilty, use that gratitude, being aware of it. And then what can you share? What do you have an abundance of that you can pass on and you can share with other people? Because that is true. We do have a lot, and sometimes that guilt aspect can come into it. And I think that gratitude can sometimes be a way to combat that guilt, because it's like, wow, at least I'm aware of these things. Take that and think, okay, what do I need? Are there any things that maybe I can share with somebody? I have a friend that when you give him anything, I would give him like a glass of water, and it was like I just gave him like the most amazing gift that he's ever had in his life. And it's like, wow, okay. So maybe figuring out that way to share and what you have an abundance of and what you need and what are things that it feels so good to give this away to somebody else. So you don't want to feel guilty about it, but there's nothing wrong with having and wanting nice things in your life. So see what you could do about sharing, but remember that you're not a bad person because you have things. That's okay. But if you're sharing and you're volunteering and you're giving away a lot, that's going to probably help eliminate some of that. And I'm just guessing. I don't know who asked that question. I'm guessing they do a lot of that already. Just a guess. and are maybe not as self-aware about how often they're giving to other people. Just a thought. Other questions on gratitude or comments? Cool. I guess we'll continue moving on. Okay, another one of my favorite topics that I get super stoked to talk about. Kindness. I love kindness. I grew up in a house, like I've shared a few times already throughout this, with some of the kindest people. My mom and my dad and my sister would give you the shirt off their back. And our friends, my parents' friends and my friends growing up, were all very kind and giving people. And it's a value that I've tried to really instill in my life and give to the people around me. Kindness is basically an act, a gesture, a mindset, or something that is designed, I don't even know if designed is the right word, but is aimed at improving the way that somebody feels or thinks or experiences life. You can be kind to other people by giving or sharing with them, or holding a door, or complimenting them. You can be kind to your dog by petting them. Hi, Linus. Yeah. You can be kind to the environment by picking up trash or minimizing how much you're driving. Kindness has many different faces, but it's something that we should be practicing and should be striving to do because it does make a difference. One of the big things that I've taken from positive psychology is you create the environment that you get to sit and live in. And what I mean by that is if you are in a negative mindset and you're grumpy and you're grouchy and things are tough, then you're going to feel that and you're going to be sitting in that negativity. If you create an environment where you're welcoming and you're being kind, that's what you get to sit in. Positive, optimistic. That's what you want to be sitting in. So if you want to feel more kindness, start by creating more kindness. You know, the old saying, be the change you wish to see in the world. That applies directly to kindness. So I think about it as opportunities for kindness that we take. I hate when people say things, oh, a random act of kindness. You don't like to me, like random is almost like accidental. But you don't accidentally hold a door for somebody. You choose to do that. So it's like an intentional act of kindness. But think about that world that you want to live in and then start to create that. A big form of kindness that I think that is going overlooked right now or maybe neglected is self-care. And I touched on this a little bit earlier, but self-care is the way that we treat ourselves. And that could be the food that we're putting in our body, mindsets that we have, the way that we're connecting with people. It could be a variety of things. I had this brilliant student a few years ago, Tommy Ray, who told me self-care is not selfish. So being kind to yourself and taking care of yourself is actually not a selfish gesture because it allows us to serve other people. And I think about my friends that are parents right now. My best friend Mike has 3 kids, and oh my gosh, they're wonderful children, but 3 of them, and it's madness. And Mike and Katie have to take care of themselves in order to serve their children and take care of them in the way that they need to. And they are super parents, some of the best parents I've ever seen. But you need to make time for yourself, even if that's sometimes stepping away for a couple minutes to reset yourself, if possible, safely to do that so that you're able to serve people. Taking a bath, going for a walk, going for a run, doing some yoga, meditating, making some art, whatever it might be, practicing that self-care gives you the opportunity to then serve those around you. I know that when I'm not taking care of myself, my clients aren't getting as much attention and as much care as they probably need. My students aren't, my dogs aren't. So in order to take care of others, we have to take care of ourselves. And the old cliche example that's always out there is you have to put on your oxygen mask first on an airplane. They tell you that so that you don't die and the person next to you dies as well. Put on your oxygen mask and then put on the oxygen mask of the needy person next to you so that they can also be safe and do that. It's not because I have to be selfless and take care of everybody else. It's because that allows us to be more selfless, to give to other people. So the chemical aspects of this from a body chemistry standpoint as well, we do release positive chemicals when we are when we're kind. We're releasing them. The person receiving those that act of kindness is also going to be feeling that. So as we like to say, Justin Pollock and Ian Buchanan and I teach a cooking class together, and we talk about like kindness of like petting your dog. Okay, it feels good to pet your dog. It's fun. It makes you happy. I'm releasing dopamine because it feels good. She's probably releasing dopamine, even though she's sometimes a grumpy dog. She feels good. And we like to call it a dopamine fest. We're just sitting in this wonderful dopamine fest. And dopamine is the chemical that makes us feel good. It's what we release when we're around people that we value. It's what we experience when we're laughing and having fun and connecting with people or playing a game or skiing, biking, whatever that is. That's dopamine. So we get a lot of that. So some ways that I would encourage you all to practice is, like I said, don't talk about random acts of kindness. They're not random. You're choosing to be a good person and choosing to do something good. So intentional acts of kindness. And those can pop up at any moment. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be simple. And you don't have to take credit for it. I love to buy cups of coffee for people that don't know that I bought it for them. I'd like to buy the next person that walks in here a cup of coffee. One day I sat at an incredible coffee shop in Breckenridge called Cup of Joe that is a former winner of the Isaac Hartstone Kindness Award, which is an international award given by the giant wooden troll in Breckenridge, Isaac. He gives out a kindness award. Yep, I'm serious. And I sat in Cup of Joe one day and I said, hey, I'd like to buy the next person that comes in their coffee, and please don't tell them that it was me. And I bought it for them. Reese, who was working behind the counter, one of the kindest spirits you'd ever meet, said, great. Person walked in and said, well, I want to pay for the next person's cup of coffee. And we watched as about 6 people all bought the next person's cup of coffee until the next person walked in and said, boy, I need a cup of coffee from someone today. It was incredible. Kindness is outrageously contagious. So pass that on. Be kind and share with the people around you, whatever that might look like for you. But there's no act of kindness that's too small to make a difference. Another thing that you can do is pick up a hobby. You don't have to be good at it. As adults, I feel like we get so consumed if we're not good at something that we're going to look like an idiot. I love to paint. I am terrible at painting. I have some paintings hanging in my office that I did at the college. And somebody walked in, one of my students walked in and goes, oh, did your kid paint that? And I said, I don't have any kids. And they're like, oh. I said, I did. And they said, did you paint that when you were like 8? And I was like, no, I painted it like 3 weeks ago. And they're like, oh, okay. It's fine to be terrible at things. Whatever it is that you might want to pick up doing as a hobby, if it's healthy and it makes you feel good, do it. Just try. Don't worry about your results or what it might look like. Art projects, building stuff, yoga. Find something that you enjoy, an activity that feels good to you, and then do it. That's a way to practice self-kindness. It's great. I don't know if anybody ever watched the show Parks and Recreation. It's one of my absolute favorite shows, but these two characters did something called Treat Yourself. And it was like a day where they went and they did all their like guiltiest pleasures. They'd go shopping and buy things that they wanted, or they would go to a spa or something like that, get a massage. So treating yourself, and what we can treat ourselves to right now might be a little bit limited, and it might be different than what you would treat yourself to under non-pandemic circumstances. Circuses probably works for that as well, but find ways to treat yourself. And for me, that's sometimes simple things like, oh, I'm going to light some candles, and I'm going to put on some really good music, and I'm going to be present in this moment. I'm going to enjoy it as much as I possibly can. It's okay also, like, and depending on your financial situation, maybe treat yourself and buy yourself like a little present. It doesn't need to be huge. It could be a little thing that you're like, I've always wanted this, and I'm going to do that. Treat yourself every now and again. It's also a great episode, fun to watch. Couple other things. Oh boy, this is a hard one to talk about. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is an incredibly fundamental part of almost any theory of positive psychology. So looking at forgiveness as far as letting things go, and there's this incredible quote that came from Buddha. I'll just read it. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone. You're the one who's getting burned. And to add on to what Buddha said there, the longer that you hold on to that, the deeper that burn gets and the harder the healing can be, and the more difficult it can be to overcome. So I'm not telling you to necessarily reconcile. Reconciling is moving forward with somebody in your life, but forgiving is an internal process where you let go of something and you no longer let that coal sit burning your hand any longer. You're letting go and you're moving forward so that you can feel better. It's a very intimate and a very personal process. And another thing about forgiveness, one of the most important people that you need to forgive is yourself. Almost everybody that I know has something that they hold on to that they need to forgive themselves for. Maybe it was that you hurt somebody else, or you abused yourself, or you were neglectful, or you were angry, or you weren't present, or you missed something. Holding on to that is not something that's necessarily going to continue to serve you. You need to process it and feel what you need to feel, but finding the ability to forgive is huge. A couple other opportunities to practice kindness. Volunteer. There's opportunities to volunteer right now, even if it has to be remotely. Look for them in any way that you possibly can. There's dogs out there that need homes. There's dogs that need help at the shelters. You can volunteer or reach out to other people in your life. Just connect with people as best you can. Check in on people. Those are great and easy, free, accessible ways to practice kindness. Another thing, and there's a link on the page that I submitted to you guys. It's called the Rage Efficiency Kindness Opportunity. Something that one of the kindest human beings on this planet shared with me and my psychology class. When we do get back to being together in workplaces, it's a way that you can encourage and facilitate kindness in your workplace or in your house by basically, if you picture like a sheet of paper that people post when they've got like a room for rent, and at the bottom it's got their phone numbers listed on it. Well, what you can do is make that and then put acts of kindness, and people can pull them off and then go do that. Buy someone a cup of coffee, hold a door, compliment a stranger, whatever it might be. You'll see the picture will explain it a little bit better than I could. But that's a great way to build community as well as practicing kindness. So one last thing that I have about kindness before I take some questions is I have Isaac Hartstone, the Breckenridge Wooden Troll, reached out to me to present the most recent Isaac Hartstone Kindness Award to a local who Isaac has seen over the last couple years practicing kindness in a way that he really values and appreciates. And that person is none other than Betsy Casey. Congratulations, Betsy Casey, on receiving the Isaac Hartstone Kindness Award. Isaac wanted me to tell you that he's been hearing what Building Hope has been able to do in the community and some of the changes that it's been making in our community members' mental health. And he said, congratulations. He wanted to recognize all the amazing things that you have done, starting Building Hope and taking a tragedy and turning it into something that is actually very beneficial. So what you get is a large jar of pickles from Isaac Hartstone. He makes pickles and gives them out to community members. So congratulations, Betsy. We're all super grateful. And this conversation, this topic, this forum wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the hard work and kindness that you put out there. So thanks, Betsy. Isaac recognizes it, sees all that you do, and appreciates what you've started and what you created. Thanks, Bets. We'll open it up to some questions now.
Okay, since kindness is an internal process, how do we know if we have forgiven someone?
Oh, since forgiveness is an internal process?
Since kindness is an internal process, how do we know if we have forgiven someone?
Okay, yeah. And to me, the whole forgive and forget thing is kind of garbage. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to forget some of the pain that I've endured in my life, but I can forgive it. It's that point where it's no longer harming you. That's when I think that forgiveness is really really there. It's no longer, you're no longer allowing it to hurt you. So when you're recognizing what's gone on and you're accepting of what has happened and you're taking it and you're letting it no longer hurt you and kind of be out of your life, that's when I feel like forgiveness is happening. And with that, with kindness being a piece of that, and kindness often being an internal process, I think that it just involves you looking deep within yourself and really kind of asking some of those questions and looking at what that forgiveness means. What does it mean to you? It means that I've learned from this and I'm no longer going to let it hurt me. So taking it internally and doing that introspection and that kind of self exploration as far as the wrongs that we've experienced, that's where I see it kind of coming from, is when we're no longer letting it hurt us, and it's still maybe a memory that we have, but it's not the venom that it once was. Good question.
What are the best indicators to use in order to know when one is truly in balance?
Oh gosh, can you read that again, Nicole?
What are the best indicators to use in order to know when one is truly in balance?
Wow, that is a great question. Indicators. I think, hey, stay here. I think that looking at how you're feeling, and that sounds easy to people, but that's not always easy to really know how you're feeling. We sometimes lose self-awareness. So creating self-awareness is the most important aspect of that. And some tips that I have for that, and I do have an article on my blog, Feel Awesomer, that you guys all have a link to, about self-awareness and ways to improve that. But there are mood meters. There's actually also a mood meter on that site as well called the FAM, the Feel Awesomer Mood Meter. And that can be, it's a little brief 0 to 100 point inventory that you can take that will provide you with a score as far as how you're feeling. I know that sounds bizarre because, don't we all know how we feel? Sometimes we don't. So being aware of your feelings, checking in with yourself. How's your energy level? How is your mood? How's your ability to deal with frustration? How's your ability to navigate people that annoy you? Are you noticing any sort of heightened reactions to any of those specific things? Another piece that I would say is talking to the people around you. Those people that you trust, that know you well and can maybe give you a little bit of feedback. Say, like, does it seem like my life is in balance right now? Does it seem like I'm in check with everything that is going on? And they might say, boy, you sometimes just seem like you get too focused on work, or you get too hung up on this, or you get really frustrated about that. And be willing to take that feedback. If you ask for it, you better be willing to hear it and know that they're trying to help you. They're trying to shed some light on what's positive and what's going on in your life. That's huge. So look for those indicators. If you're finding yourself easily agitated, irritated, short with people, people constantly giving you feedback that you're like, that's not true. I'm not grumpy and I'm not mean, or I'm not neurotic. The best thing is when someone's like, I give personality tests in one of my classes, and it'll come back and it'll say, oh, this person tested really high on the neuroticism scale. And they look at that and they're like, I'm not neurotic. This test is neurotic. You're neurotic. The whole system's neurotic. And you're like, oh, I didn't say anything. It's not my test. But looking at some of those indicators as far as how you're responding to stress or to stimulus, and how that's kind of going for you. So self-awareness is the biggest thing, and looking at different ways that you can improve your self-awareness. Journaling is also really good for improving your awareness. Great question about that.
Okay, a couple of comments. One person, Annalisa, suggests, fun idea. Play-Doh is cheap and like the most surprising fun as an adult too, in case you need an idea on how to treat yourself.
Love it. I love that. I love playing with things like that. I think Play-Doh is a great one. Awesome, Annalise. Thank you.
And then there was also on our previous section with putting some perspective on the guilt when we look at gratitude. There was a suggestion that perhaps try to recognize the guilt arises because you are especially sensitive and mindful of other people's needs.
Oh, great. That is great insight right there. Yeah, good point.
And it looks like that's all for now.
Awesome. Great. Okay, moving on from kindness. All right, so this is a fun topic and something that you guys can all practice at home. And I just made all my positive psych students do this at the end of the semester, is savoring. How to savor things in our lives that we appreciate. To me, this is directly related to gratitude. Savoring is something that we do to enhance or extend or intensify our enjoyment of something, generally that we value. I did have somebody tell me that they were savoring all this pain that they were in right now so that they could move forward and feel more joyful when they get out of it. I was like, wow, that's impressive. But savoring is slowing yourself down to truly enjoy something. That can be food, that can be a moment, that can be a view. Right now I'm looking around, and I'm lucky enough that I get to see some mountains in my life and see some trees and some buds that are coming on aspen trees. And savoring is a way of intentionally choosing to deepen your value. I think about food, and I recorded a video that there's a link to on that page about savoring. And I savor a cheeseburger from a place back in Ohio that's called Swenson's. That's without a doubt probably the greatest cheeseburger on the planet. I think we can all agree to that have had it. And I savor it. I slow down, and I really intentionally enjoy every flavor and the way that it looks weird. And it's kind of mushed down because I brought them back from Ohio with me at Christmas. I kept them in the freezer, so they're all misshapen and freezer burned, but still delicious. But some ways that you can do this are by engaging your senses. What does this look like? What does this smell like? I'm sitting around a fire right now, and I'm looking at the weird shape of it, and kind of how I've built it into this little teepee, thinking that there's no two fires the same, and I'm smelling the smoke coming off of it and feeling its warmth and looking at all the different colors and entities that are there. And it's awesome. It's beautiful. But I would often just kind of look beyond this or forget about it or sit around without that appreciation. Oh, I can feel that warmth on my hands. So savoring is something that is accessible to all people at all times, whatever it is. Even if you're just eating a bowl of ramen, slow down. And I'm not talking about like good ramen. I'm talking about like the 10-cent ramen packages. Slow down and savor it. Enjoy it. Enhance it. Almost set up like kind of like I've been telling people like that are really lonely right now, like set up like a date almost for yourself, like a nice little romantic date for yourself, where you light a candle, you put some music on, and you cook yourself a meal, and then be present in that moment, in that meal. Every bite, what does it feel like? What's the texture? What's the taste? What are the smells? Use the senses that we have to deepen our appreciation. I think about skiing, and I love skiing. And I think about some of the best runs that I've had in my life. And one comes to mind right now that I had with one of my all-time best friends who's looking over his fence at me right now, Tony Steele. And we skied 4th of July Bowl last spring, and we put down perfect tracks. And I can tell you exactly what that moment felt like to be with one of my best friends skiing an incredible line. And the feeling that we had and the sunshine that was coming down and the snow and everything that was there was unbelievable and spectacular and a perfect moment. Part of savoring and being present in a moment is so that we can then come back to it. When I'm having a rough day, I often look up at 4th of July Bowl, which I can just barely see from here. And I think about that moment with a valued friend in perfect snow on a perfect pitch. And it was an incredible moment. So part of this whole savoring thing is basically creating a memory bank of all the positive and good things that we have in our life. And it's there for us to experience at a later time and enjoy so that we can just pull ourselves out of ruts. Does it make your problem at hand go away? No, but maybe it gives you a minute of refuge, maybe a minute of salvation from the pain that you're in and the negative and the stress and the anxiety and whatever that is. Savoring is there for you to really live your life positively. Slow down and do that as best you can. A couple other thoughts on savoring before we open it up for questions on that. Once you've really gone to kind of that sense piece where you're engaging all your senses and you're experiencing something as deeply as possible, where do you go in your mind? Where do you go? Where does it take you? And when I was eating that cheeseburger from a place back, like I said, in Ohio, in Swenson's, where we used to go in my 1985 Chevy Caprice Classic station wagon that probably had 12 of my closest friends crammed into it. It was my car that I had, the truckster. She was beautiful and amazing, and it could fit a lot of high school boys in it. And we would go to Swenson's. It's a drive-up place, and we put on music, and we sit there, all of us just laughing, carefree, being goofy, and Elliot's there, and Riley's there, and Mike, and Matt, and Metzger, and like all of my buddies are there, and we're joyful. And as I'm eating that burger, I remember thinking, it took me right back to that place. So if you want to savor something, go beyond the senses. Go into the memories. Go to the people. Who's there? What are you experiencing? What do you feel? When I was eating that burger the other day, and I was 17 and I was back in the truckster, I felt carefree. I felt joyful, grateful, and I was having fun. So use those positive things that you have that you're choosing to be grateful for and you're choosing to savor and enjoy in an enhanced way. Savor. So whatever it is that you're going to choose to savor, I highly recommend and encourage that you make that a priority. It's something that you want to do over the next couple of days. And it can be as simple as savoring the dinner that you have. Or maybe you're lucky enough to have somebody in your life right now that you get to hug and kiss. Maybe the next time you kiss that person, you slow down and you hold them tighter than you have before, and you think about that love or that connection that you have with that person, and you really enjoy them and you really appreciate them. So slow down and savor some stuff. I'll take some questions on that now. Did we get anything, Nicole?
Nothing so far.
Everybody's busy savoring something delicious. There's like a bunch of smiling faces is what I'm guessing. Everyone's got, like, I've got a cup of tea right here. Ooh, loving that. While we're doing that, while we're talking about that, I'm going to set up something that I'm going to savor right here. And I'm going to do this, not to make you jealous that you're not out here. You can do what I'm about to do over your stovetop, maybe, if you got marshmallows. But I am going to make myself a marshmallow because this campfire chat would not be complete without a marshmallow. And I'm going to make it. Now, I'm doing this because I wanted to, one, marshmallows are delicious, but two, there's an incredibly important person in my life who loves marshmallows. I think he describes them as his favorite fruit, which is weird, but if you know this person, you would know that that's about accurate. But he loves s'mores, and I brought out all my things to make s'mores. And probably the most insightful thing that I'm going to share with you today is that if you do make s'mores, switch over. Go with the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. It is definitely the way that you want to make s'mores. Chocolate's great, don't get me wrong, but the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups really just take it to the next level. And yeah, I am a professor, so keep that in mind. That's solid gold advice from a professor right there. But when I'm toasting this marshmallow, I think about how we all make different marshmallows. My dad is the person that loves marshmallows more than anybody that I know. And he likes to burn them and then just eat them like the char on it. I'm a big golden brown kind of guy. I like to spend a little bit of time on it, making it a little melted on the inside. But as I'm doing this, I wish my dad was sitting right here in one of these chairs, and my family and my sister and my brother-in-law, we were all around this fire enjoying roasting marshmallows together. About to lose my mallow, so I better eat it. Uh-oh. Oh God, that's good. It's so good. But it takes me back to being with my family. It's so sugary and so overwhelmingly sweet. But I think about how many times I've had fires with people that I value and care about. And we talk about how you roast your marshmallow. And I'm camping with friends somewhere back in high school or in college or in the woods somewhere around here, and we're eating marshmallows. It can be that simple to just escape. And I'm not going to claim to have these massive ways of improving your mental health, but what we do have are a lot of little things that can make a big difference. Eating a marshmallow and thinking about my family is huge for me. It matters. It makes a big difference. And it's right there. It's right there and it's accessible. All right, I'm going to move on topics.
So we did get a question.
Oh, great. What do we got?
Normally, I spend my downtime reading a lot of news and current events, but lately that's been compounding my stress. Can you recommend resources, blogs, videos, podcasts, articles, books that you turn to when you're feeling anxious or down?
Awesome. Yeah. So Brene Brown is one of like the most incredible people out there in the field of positive psychology, and she offers up a lot of blogs and readings. Brene Brown, as in the Cleveland Browns, the greatest football team ever. She has a great podcast and some great readings that are out there as well. You could feel free to check out my blog, Feel Awesomer, and I've got some positive stuff on there to kind of help with navigating these things. Something that I would recommend you check out as well is Yale University. Yes, that Yale made their positive psychology course online for free to people. And I'm guessing if you just type in Yale and positive psychology into the Google machine, you will find that. And it takes you through with people that are far more educated and knowledgeable on some of these things than I am. And like I said, it's being offered for free, and it has readings, videos, tips, techniques, practices. I think there's even homework that might come with it for you to check out. So I would highly recommend doing those things. And again, set some boundaries for yourself on how much time you want to spend on kind of the news and the current event stuff right now, because it is heavy. It is very, very heavy. So look at some of those other things. If you do social media, I don't do a ton of it. I do a little bit, but without a doubt, I think it's called like the world of goats or baby goats, something like that. Animals doing things. Choose to follow things that are really positive and only can make you feel better. Like puppies, like look at that. Those are just the lighter, sillier things, but I would definitely recommend checking out Brene Brown. Anything that she does is gold, and that Yale class. Other questions that popped up? Cool. All right, we will move on from savoring.
Oh, sorry, one more.
Oh, yep.
I love savoring moments and food, but lately when I reflect on them, it makes me feel sad instead of happy thinking about that moment. Do you have any suggestions for how to change that perspective?
Sure. I guess probably a simple question. When you're looking at the things that you have, what would your life look like if you didn't have that in front of you right now? And I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty or to make you feel bad, but how would that change the way that you're feeling to not have that? It's fine to long for things and to look and to want things, but what if you didn't have the things that you had? Where would you be, and what would that perspective look like? So maybe just a bit of a perspective shift on that. And I've been doing that as well. There's been points where I felt really depressed lately, and I'm like eating something and I'm trying to like enjoy it, or I'm trying to be present, and it just feels automatic. So engage back into it. Engage back, use those senses, and then think about the memories that are there that are going to take you there. We're not going to have a solution right now for making things totally better, but if we can access that memory bank of some of those positive things, write them down. Like take that time, write them down. This is where I am when I'm eating this. When I'm eating pasta, I'm back in Italy. I've never been in Italy, but I'm in Italy, or I'm at an Italian restaurant with friends. Write it down and maybe try to almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Like envision yourself in the setting that you would rather be in, and what that could be, just to escape for a few minutes. Or if it's because you're missing somebody, call that person up and enjoy whatever it might be with them instead of just by yourself, so that at least you're getting a little bit of connection. But I've had that too, and there's been like waves of depression that have come with me, and it's sometimes during times where I'm enjoying something, but I'm longing for it being a little bit more. Thank you for that question. All right, we're going to move on to kind of our last topic for the night, which is human connection. Okay, I'll be honest. This two-dimensional stuff sucks compared to what we're used to doing. Like like I said, if Building Hope had come to me and said, "Hey, do you want to put an event on around your fire and feed a bunch of people and have everyone hang out and talk about positive psychology," all of you would be sitting here right now, and it would be awesome. And we'd be doing the exact same things that we're talking about, but we'd be together. And everyone, it must be 8 o'clock. Everyone's howling. People are howling outside right now. Ow! I can hear them howling all over. It's awesome. I don't know if you guys are getting that where you are, but perfect timing actually for that on the human connection piece. People are riding their bikes and howling, and it's making me really happy. We can't connect in the way that we generally do. We can't. It's not safe to do that, and that's hard to deal with. My dogs aren't necessarily loving all the people howling right now, I'll say that, but we've got to get creative and we've got to get clever in the ways that we can connect, and we've got to accept. That was kind of a howl. This person just came by. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. This is my home, yes. Sounds good. Some people just rolled by on bikes, and it was probably one of the more pathetic howls that I've ever heard, if I'm being honest. But that's beside the point. But we've got to get creative. We rely on human connections. We are like dogs and wolves. We are pack animals. We belong to one another, and we spend time with each other. We grow. We are sad together, and we're happy together, and we are excited together, and we do all those things together. Like I said earlier, we've had a really, really rough week in a couple weeks in the community, like everybody has. But ours has gone a little bit farther because we've had tragic suicides of 2 adolescents. And that is an already isolating time of life for many people. And we're forced to literally be away from everybody else. So our support systems are going to look different. And they're going to maybe not be able to be there in the way that we want and need. So we've got to get creative, and we've got to get clever in the way that we connect with people. And this is what we have right now. I'm literally looking at a computer screen, trying to connect as best that I can with people, and wishing that people were all here. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with desiring and wanting to be around each other, but we've got to just take the opportunities that we can to connect. From a chemical standpoint, human connection, there's a big chemical that comes with that, which is called oxytocin, which often comes from deep or intimate relationships that we have with people. So we're probably lacking some of that. But if we can forge these opportunities, create these opportunities to connect to things, we're going to get through this. We're going to navigate through this. But we've got to be clever. I've been having one of my favorite things that I've done via Zoom was play a game called Pass the Pigs. And Pass the Pigs, I should have brought my pigs out. I've got these foam pigs, and they're like, I don't know, about that big. They also make them that are like that size, and it's a game. You roll these silly little foam pigs on the table, and then how they land, you get points for it. Well, this is something that my friends and I have played for years. My pigs that I've got, they go back to like high school days. And one of my best friends, 2 of my best friends, Mike and Max, and my girlfriend and I, we played a game of Pass the Pigs from my camper where I was living at the time and their apartment in New York City. We were able to roll our pigs. I'd roll, and then it would be Max's turn, and I would like pretend to pass Max the pigs. She would pretend to pull her pigs out, and then she'd roll. And we played, and it was amazing. And we were talking smack to one another. We were doing all the things that we always do when we're playing Pass the Pigs. And it wasn't the same as sitting around a fire playing Pass the Pigs together or being there. But you know what? It was sure better than sitting there feeling lonely. It was sure better. Oh, my pigs are coming out. I've got my pigs coming. My pigs are being delivered right now. And that was as good as it got for what we had at the moment. Thank you. So these are pigs. Pass the pigs. And you roll them. Yeah, see, that's a Razorback. That'd be 5 points right there. No big deal, right off the bat. But playing games, figure out ways to get creative. I taught a class at the Peak School. I taught positive psychology at the Peak School, and it had to go online for the second half of the semester, obviously. And what we generally would do at the end of the game was play something called Mafia. It's a game that my high school friends and I used to play, where basically it's cards that you draw out, and then you get a role based on what your card is. And you could be a police officer, a townsperson, a medic, or the killers. Basically, people close their eyes and then point at somebody that gets killed. And then you sit there and argue about who you think did it. And I was so bummed that we weren't going to be able to play because it was fun and it was social and it was silly. And at the end of an intense class, it would be lighthearted. Well, I got on Zoom, and these are genius students from the Peak School. And I was like, guys, how could we play this online? And sure enough, they're like, oh, we'll figure this out. And we figured out a way that we could message each other and kind of play this game. And it was totally different. But you know what? We were still laughing and being goofy and being silly and having fun. So finding those ways to still connect with people is huge. Another thing I'll tell you is, and going back to the kindness, is we need to be as non-judgmental as we can right now. Everybody's going a little crazy, and it seems like we're reaching our craziness thresholds, and we might be acting irrational. Forgive your friends. Forgive the person who cuts you off in traffic, or the person who might be acting a little different in City Market. And we've got to figure out what these boundaries look like of how we're going to be interacting with each other. And that might be challenging, and that might take some time. But we've got to be kind to each other when we're trying to figure this out, so that we're not creating more tension or more anger. Whoever's, wants masks, like if everybody wants masks on and we need to have them on, let's respect each other's comfort levels and where we are and what we need to do, and communicate through these things so that we can keep connecting. But I've noticed that I have video chatted more in the last 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever this is, than my entire life combined. And it's not as great. And seeing clients that I'm treating for mental health counseling over the internet is definitely not as great as sitting down next to somebody and being able to give them a hug when they're crying, or look them in the eyes and empathize and feel what they're feeling. That's not there. And it's hard. And I miss that. Being able to sit in front of a group of my students and have them share their stories and watch one student pick up the other student who's struggling. It's different. It's different. And that's the world that I live in and I love and I crave. Or be at a concert and dancing with my friends. I miss that so much. But finding those alternatives of ways that you can do it is huge. Maybe get a couple of your friends, do a Zoom, and all start a concert at the exact same time. One that you went to that you enjoyed. For me, Fish, Six last year, night 2, I think, whatever it is. But all of you just enjoying being back at that show. I think back when I was at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, seeing Fish with my friends, and how much joy we had, and how much laughter and emotions there were, and joy and support and care for each other. Figure out ways so that you can still have that, because we need and crave those things. And it's going to be a long time before we're able to have them in the form that we knew them in. So find ways to forge those connections right now that can still serve you. I would encourage you all to think right now about being at a fire, being around a fire like this. And I'm sitting in a fire, and there's like 6 or 7 open seats around me. These would usually be filled by Colleen Manna and Joe Mackey and my mom and Tony and whoever shows up to just sit around, or the people walking by, instead of just waving and howling at one another at 8 o'clock, they would stop and we would roast marshmallows together. I wish that people were here with me right now, but that's not the case. So what I do have is I have gratitude for the people that chose to show up to this meeting, however many of you there are, and I can't even see your faces because of the way my screen is right now. But I wish you guys were here, and I would encourage you to think about right now, think about 2 or 3 people, one person, whatever, 5, 10, it doesn't matter, of the people that you wish were sitting in the chairs around your fire that you're having. Who are the people that would pick you up? Who are the people that would laugh with you, cry with you, tease you lovingly? The people that know you and get you. Who are those people that you would want around? And I would tell you, reach out to one of those people today. Reach out to, or maybe even tomorrow. I know it's getting late for folks sometimes, but who are those people that you want to be sharing a fire with? Reach out to those people and let them know. Because I would love for you all to be here right now. I would love that. But I'll open it up to questions before I make some final thoughts. Any questions or comments that you guys have, I would love to hear.
A couple of questions came through. The Yale class was listed as the science of well-being.
Great, thank you.
There's also a suggestion. Just finished The Book of Joy by Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. Great book.
Awesome. Two incredible people that know a little bit about kindness. I had the privilege of seeing Desmond Tutu speak when I was in high school, and boy, oh boy, powerful. Great book.
And then a suggestion that grounding is a really useful technique for savoring life's moments.
Great. Yeah, grounding. Grounding is so huge, and it relates to a lot of these things that we've talked about tonight. And that's grounding can happen when we feel like we're kind of out of our own head, like we're not present. Is often what happens when we need to be grounded. Great suggestion, whoever threw that out there. Any other questions or comments that we have?
That's all for now.
Awesome. So I found some glow sticks today when I was cleaning up in my house. Glow sticks make me think of being at a concert, and they make me think of my friends and the silliness of being at a show and the fun of everything that's going on, and missing and longing that. So I decided I would crack these two glow sticks, my two favorite colors of glow sticks, by the way, for just being outside and learning that I can be by myself. I can be by myself and be content, and I can find that happiness and I can find that joy. But what I do crave and I do long is deep connection. And I'm lucky enough that I have a lot of people that I connect with. And I'm grateful for that. And I want to express that more. Excuse me. We'll just say that it's the smoke that's causing my eyes to water. That's what it does. It's the smoke. But I think about what the world's going to look like after this. And people keep saying when we go back to normal, like, we're not going to go back to normal. We are going to experience something called societal PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. We are all experiencing a very intense trauma. But I know that we're going to go back to something different than what we're living in right now. And I would encourage you all to think about, how do you want to be when we go back to whatever that might be? How do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What do you want that to look like? I want to connect with more people. I want to spend time appreciating and valuing human connection. I want to deepen my relationships and intensify the way that I connect with people. And that's what I'm going to offer after this to the world, is I want to intensify the way that I am with people and deepen and value those times that I do care. One of the biggest aspects of positive psychology is resilience, how resilient a person can be. Resilience is basically our ability to bounce back. Some people are going to really struggle to bounce back from this. They're going to really be in a negative, difficult, dark place where they're living out of total fear and shut away. But resilient people are the ones that see negativity, feel hurt, experience pain, and they bounce back and they learn and they grow from it. What are you going to learn from this entire experience that we're going through together? What are you going to take, and how are you going to grow? Who do you want to be? I want to be resilient. I want to bounce back. I don't want to let this bring me down, make me feel negative, or make me feel worse. I really, really want to grow and be a better person as a result of this, who cares about people in a deeper way. Going back to one of my opening thoughts that I had, it's raining right now for all of us. It's raining hard, heavy, emotional stuff. And we can either be angry and bitter and grumpy and aggressive and attacking and judgmental, or we can try to find small joys, small gratitudes, little things that we do. Positive psychology doesn't offer some grandiose, massive idea of how you can find wellness. It offers a variety of small steps that you can take. And those small steps pieced together create what is often viewed as huge improvement or joy or something that you value and is better than where you were. Either way, people, it's raining right now. How do you want to take that And do you want to be out there as best you can, dancing joyfully in the rain? It might be a step right now to be dancing joyfully in the rain, but you can be better than where you are. I am incredibly, incredibly grateful for the opportunity to talk to, I'm not just going to say a computer screen, even though that's what it feels like at this moment, but to talk to 20-some people who wanted to hear about positive psychology and believed in me enough to take a couple hours out of their day. It means the absolute world to me, and I'm so grateful that you support me, and more importantly, that you support Building Hope. There's a donate button on the Facebook post for this as well. I am doing this because I'm honored to share, and truly, truly grateful that people wanted to hear a message that I have to share. I'm doing this free of charge. If you feel like you want to contribute some money to Building Hope, that would be awesome. It's going to an organization that has made such a massive change in this community and is going to continue. That would be incredibly awesome. I appreciate that.